We basically help them to buy the right property in the right location and with the right price. We help them to save time and money, and we also maximize their profit, minimize the risk and holding costs. And this is very critical because property investment is one of the fastest way to grow your wealth in Australia. And it is very easy also to get it wrong. With a poor choice or listening to a poor advice, you can easily lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run. Let me just give you an example. Imagine purchasing a property for $700,000. In 10 years' time, that property with the average growth rate of Australia, which is 7%, would be worth around $1,400,000. But with the right advice, and purchasing a property in a suburb that has additional 2% growth, that property value would increase by $1,660,000. That is a significant $260,000 of difference in only one investment decision. That's not just a number, that's a completely different lifestyle. And that is why knowledge is not only power, that is key to unlocking your dream life. And this is where we can add a lot of value to our investors by helping them identifying and purchasing a property in locations where actually it has high growth and also has high cash flow.
Of course, because you don't have to just be average. At the end of the day, if a property is typically known to double, it used to be every 7 years, but every say 10 years, so it's 700, 1.4. You don't have to be the average of that. You can have properties out there that could exceed $2 million in value if you purchased around the right infrastructure. And you could also have, if you bought an apartment, sometimes that $700,000 property is, guess what? Worth $700,000.
Yeah.
So you've got to be very careful, and that's why it's
Absolutely.
important. Knowledge is power. So the second question would be your process, okay? Do you want to run me through how your process as a buyer's advocacy would work with the client?
We have a very solid 6-step process, and that starts with initial consultation. Then we create the strategy, then we go through suburb selection, property selection, pre-purchase due diligence, and also at the last step, we help clients to find the right tenants. We basically start by understanding the short and long-term goals of our investors, and then we help them to create a very customized strategy that aligns with their investment criteria. Then we base that strategy to find the suburbs that matches their criteria. At Property Demand, we specialise in analysing 15,000 suburbs in Australia using our data-driven research process, and through that process we identify the suburbs that the demand exceeds supply. So in property investment, capital growth is driven by the balance of supply and demand. So that is where our system add a lot of value to clients by identifying those booming suburbs and find them suburbs that not only have high growth potential but also high cash flow. So after we finalize that suburb research, we start looking at properties. So that's basically our property selection process, which is very selective. We reject 97% of the properties on those suburbs, and after inspecting the properties and making sure that everything is okay, we undertake a very comprehensive price analysis just to determine the true value of that property and to create our negotiation strategy. And after we secure that property for our clients, we help them to find the right tenant. We basically hold our client's hand from start to finish and try to create a memorable, stress-free experience for them.
Beautiful. So I'm just going to throw something in the middle there before the next question. Is this, let's say you've identified a property that has been owner-occupied for 30 years. Some of these properties have been set up in a way that they're comfortable for the family home, but now they're converting. It's like from a car to a race car. Okay, now they're switching gears. Sometimes there's a few things that need to be done to the property, and no matter how you buy it, it may need a new kitchen or laundry, those sort of things. Is there a small step in the transition there? When they've settled on the property, you're going to need to get it investor ready. That could be the tiles need to be done in the shower because you might need to facilitate elderly people that are moving in, or there's been an incident there. Is there a small little active service there that you do also provide if needed?
We use a very broad range of partners that we engage to add value to our clients.
Excellent.
But as I mentioned, we really try to align our clients' strategy to what we purchase for them, and
Yeah.
this is aligning the property, the selected property, with their needs. Let me just give you an example. We have clients that they clearly states that we don't want to do any kind of reno, and we want to purchase a move-in ready
Okay.
product.
Yeah.
So in those scenarios, we reject
Gotta be
those
perfect.
properties.
Yep.
But for the investors who really interested in adding value to their property through renovation, we actually create our strategy that way, and we select a property that has the quality for cosmetic renovation.
Because I think the ideal property there would be a hybrid, which is something that is ready to go.
Sure.
But you still see the potential, and that's why
Sure.
they pay for the advice there. Any market trends at the moment that we should highlight that's happening?
After interest rise, we've seen many investors forced to sell their properties because they couldn't afford to hold it anymore. And that is a typical case in Victoria, for instance, at the moment.
Got some land tax issues.
Yes, land tax issue and high
Yeah.
interest and low rental yield. In Victoria, the average rental yield is around 2.5% to 3%. And that's low rental income alongside with high land tax and interest rate force people to sell their property. We've seen 25% of Victorian investors selling their property recently, and they moved their investment to Queensland, Western Australia and South Australia. The same trend in New South Wales, that people don't find that high yield properties.
Which also actually does put pressure on the rental market as well. So if
Exactly.
you actually stay in the market, the rental yield's going to go up.
That is correct, but we have
Yeah.
different trends, and some people try to move with the cycle. So it's just different
Yeah.
strategic planning. Some people said, I want to have a short-term gain. Other people just said, look, the market
see.
will change. I will sit down and stay, and I will have a much higher capital growth after 2-3 years, because growth will come back to Victoria anyway, and infrastructure
Always
is
will.
here,
Yeah.
population growth is happening. We're going to see positive impact in Victoria, but for investors who want to add a lot of value to their current portfolio using short-term strategies, it's a very powerful strategy. And to me, having a balanced and healthy cash flow from the portfolio is the key, because if you can't afford to hold your property, no matter how high it's going to grow, you cannot hold it. So
Of course.
with the trend that we are seeing, people are interested in properties with higher yield, and that is where the majority of people trying to balance their portfolio by investing in areas where they know that they will grow, like Melbourne, but not short, but they will balance it with their other investment in other states.
Typically, yeah. I want to thank you for being on the New Property Show, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you for
Thank you.
having me here.